So the theme here at CPAC is America versus socialism.
Yes.
So can you make the case for us against socialism? President Trump has promised in his State of the Union addresses that America will never be a socialist country.
Sure.
Tell us the case against socialism.
So let me tell you about it from the warrior's perspective. 155 years ago, next week, Abraham Lincoln delivered what was it is the most spiritually righteous speech given by any president, his second inaugural. And in that inauguration, he created what was then known as the Veterans Bureau. And he made a promise to anyone who wore the uniform that we will take care of those who bore the battle and the widow and orphan. And that is a promise that we must keep. If America were suddenly to descend into a socialist state, that promise that Lincoln made 150 years ago was wiped out. There's no longer any care for veterans. And why that is important, you look at, and we just signed the peace accord with the Taliban, 19 years of war, wounds that the type of which we'd never seen before, but people able to recover in ways that we never thought of. An incredibly high percentage of our warriors with missing limbs. VA under this president provides care for those special needs. If socialism became the coin of the realm,
and the Medicare for all, or whatever
that would be gone. That would be gone, and that place that was promised for warriors would disappear. So that is my great concern as the person who is very fortunate and honored to be the head of America's second largest department. Only DOD is bigger. We care for 9.5 million veterans, over 170 hospitals. That care would disappear.
So, President Trump's going to be speaking here in just a
Yes.
few hours. I'm sure he's going to talk about veterans. He always does.
Yes.
He very much cares about veterans. Can you tell us what you guys have done in the Trump administration to help veterans get access to health care, readjust to life, get careers? Give us some of the brag metrics, if you will.
Well,
what have you guys succeeded at doing that?
Great. Let's talk about the president to begin with. This is the first president in our history who has ever made veterans the centerpiece first of his campaign and then of his presidency. Nobody else has ever done that. The closest was Richard Nixon, and his focus was on the returning prisoners of war. What President Trump has allowed us to do is expand the market for veterans, something that's very important to anyone who's followed Mr. Breitbart or listens to you. So we are integrating VA into the greater American healthcare network. And we're saying to veterans, if you live a certain distance from a VA facility, if we don't have what you need, then you have the power to go into the private sector and get what you need in a timely manner. So that program kicked off on June 6th of last year. We've sent over 3 million veterans into the private sector to get that health care. That is a massive, massive reform. The president has taken choice and given it new meaning to our veterans, and we're seeing it work on a scale that has really confounded a lot of the critics.
Yeah, so Mr. Secretary, I know one of the biggest issues with veterans coming home, and obviously with this new peace deal with the Taliban and Afghanistan, we're going to have a lot of veterans coming home from Afghanistan who've still been there. But there's been a lot of veterans from Afghanistan, Iraq, in the most recent wars, but even further back than that, that deal with all sorts of different problems. One of the biggest problems is PTSD. How do we deal with the PTSD problem? What are some of the things? Because I think there's some new cutting-edge medical stuff on the way. How do we deal with the PTSD
That is,
problem?
and it's actually, I broaden it beyond PTSD to traumatic brain injury and mental health issues. So for us, we have expanded our responsibilities to even those who in the past would have not received that care because they were other than honorably discharged. So we're saying, come to us. We have same-day services. We are specialists because we are tied at the hip with the Department of Defense in those traumatic brain injuries. We have, and this is another reason that socialism would wipe this out. We have people whose only mission in life is to treat the combat impact of trauma on the brain. And we see that in places like Tampa, where we are part of the special operations world. And we treat those warriors as well as the warriors from earlier conflicts. But let me take off on a tangent and tell you where this has led us, and that is the issue of suicide. The Army began taking statistics on suicide in the 1890s, and it's been a pretty steady number since that time. Today, sadly, about 20 veterans a day take their lives.
It's 20 too many.
And about 60% of those we don't see. So here's the private sector partnership. The federal government can't find those folks. We have to go in to charities, to NGOs, to the churches, and say, help us find those veterans that we can't see. The majority of those, sadly, are from my father's era, Vietnam, which means they came back to a country that put them off to the side. Give you a quick example. My father was terribly wounded in Cambodia. It took him 3 years to recover, but he went back to Fort Bragg to the 82nd Airborne Division. And in southeastern North Carolina, the heart of Richard Nixon country, he wasn't allowed to wear his uniform off post. So you think about those thousands and thousands of Vietnam soldiers who felt that, and they have separated themselves from society. So we have to be very creative in going out there to help find them. The president, of course, being an entrepreneur, being someone who believes in the market, has brought those principles to us, and we're in a much better place than we have been in decades.
And that attitude that we had in the 70s after Vietnam, that is not here now.
Right.
President Trump is somebody who deeply believes in veterans, and I know the community here at CPAC loves veterans. There's no doubt about that. So one of the other issues that veterans face when they come home is finding jobs.
Yes.
So how is President Trump and you guys? How have you guys approached this? How have you gotten veterans back to work?
The Trump economy. We have the lowest veterans unemployment rate in our history. That's the first thing. Unleashing the market. What he allows us to do is tell veterans, through our training programs, through our rehab, you give an employer, and I talk to employers all the time, you give an employer something that employer does not have in the general population. You have young people who may be 25, 26 years old. They have made more life-altering decisions by the time they're 25 than the average American will make in a lifetime. They look you in the eye. They have incredible leadership skills. But the other thing when it comes to the market that the president has allowed us to do, if a young soldier wants to be an electrician or wants to be a mechanic, we say amen. We are not going to funnel you into a 4-year degree because some union thinks that's the right thing to do.
And if they want to choose the trades, then
if
by
they
all
want to
means,
choose the trades, yes.
And by the way, you can make a great career as an electrician or a plumber or in one of the trades.
Yeah,
you can make 6 figures.
And that's what America needs. We want people to be happy. We don't want others making choices for them to say, well, you need a 4-year degree in anthropology. When that youngster wants to be a mechanic, wants to work on airplanes. In my hometown of Fayetteville, North Carolina, we have, with our Fayetteville Technical Community College in Fort Bragg and Pope Army Airfield, we have a wonderful relationship with NASCAR. These youngsters can
We're going to be joined by a NASCAR driver here and one of their managers in a few minutes. I think they're making their way over. So, yeah, we're excited.
You can go to our technical college with our benefits, and you can get a master mechanic's license from NASCAR. That's revolutionary. And that makes you happy, and you have a career that is fulfilling for you and your family for the rest of your lives.
Absolutely incredible. So just kind of bringing things back full circle here, we're at CPAC. The conservative movement really seems like it's never been as strong as it is right now. I haven't seen anything like this. This is my 10th CPAC, so I've been coming here for a decade. What are your thoughts, about the how important it is that the for the veteran community, that the conservative movement be strong and looped in with that, because I think that's the two are very linked.
Well, they are, and conservatism. And I came to this town working for one of the pillars of the conservative movement, Mr. Helms from North Carolina. Conservatism is at its heart about values. It's about family and freedom, and those are the things that our young people sign up to defend. And they are part and parcel of the same ethos. And so this is important to show that the leadership of the country believes in those values that people have put their lives on the line to defend. Since Lexington in 1775, 41 million Americans have put on the uniform, and well over 1 million have paid the ultimate. Family, faith, and freedom. That's what the military is about, and that's what this movement's about.